else you had before book spoilers?
I think that's it. We could probably get into book spoilers now.
Okay, tell me your differences. I want to know. You said you wrote them down.
So, yes, I have them all written out here.
I want you to tell me the differences, and then if you don't hit on anything I have questions on, I want to ask you what you thought.
Okay, so the first one I have written down is timeline changes, and it starts basically right at the beginning of the movie. So in the book, after Paul kills Jamis, and before he like spends all the time with the Fremen and does his worm riding, there's a 2-year gap in the book. And in that 2-year gap, Paul has a child with Chani, and Jessica has,
really?
yeah, and Jessica gives birth to her baby, Aaliyah.
Also, the baby's born
Yes.
in the book.
And if you remember what I told you about how this is a baby who has the full experience of possibly thousands of Reverend Mothers, it's pretty freaky sounding, and I totally understand why they wouldn't eventually have wouldn't want to have a 2-year-old running around doing the stuff she does in the book. So I think
does she like age faster, or it's just age the same, just has the knowledge?
She ages the same and just has the knowledge, and all the Fremen are like, man, this baby's such a freak. She's so weird.
Does she like talk and everything right when she's born?
Yep. I don't know if about basically shortly after she's born, if not right away, because they get weirded out because she says things that only an adult would know, and she like jokes around, and yeah, it sounds very weird, and like it wouldn't work on screen. So I totally understand why they had to change the timeline for that. But a side effect of that is that Paul doesn't have a son with Chani, and I feel like that in the book really cements their relationship.
Wait, Paul
and Chani have a son, and they name him Leto.
They have a son in the book.
Yes, and actually...
Wow, so this goes completely different direction.
That changed a lot of how the relationship felt, I feel like, for me. They still did it well with what they had, but a bigger...
She'll be pregnant, you think, in the movie? She doesn't know yet?
I don't think so, because the next change, obviously because of that, this couldn't happen. But when the Harkonnens, or maybe it was the Sardaukar, bomb Siege Tabor, they end up killing Leto, the son. And that's the moment in the book where Paul is like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm gonna be the leader. And they don't know the meaning of revenge, basically. I think that's exactly what he says.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that's really I think right after that, he takes the water and then takes up the mantle of like. So
that's what put him over the edge to take the water.
Yep.
So instead of reluctantly going to do it in the movie, he had a motive.
Yeah, he had a big motive.
A big motive, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah,
I wonder why they didn't go that direction of them having a kid.
I honestly think it's
because of the time.
Yeah, I think it's just because they didn't want to have Aaliyah running around. So in the book, Aaliyah is the one who kills the Baron. When they get bombed, she gets taken by the Emperor. Well, she's like, I just let you take me. She's like super sassy to the Emperor. It's really funny. But she gets taken by the Emperor, and then she pulls out the Gom Jabbar, the needle thing, and stabs the Baron and ends up killing him. And then she runs around and just starts stabbing all the dying Harkonnens. And I'm like, yeah, that wouldn't really work in the movie.
I like how Paul killed the Baron, though.
Yeah, I liked that change too. It was very like cathartic. And like, oh yeah, he got
satisfying.
Revenge. Yeah,
and that's the thing I forgot to mention too, real quick, is I loved his father still, like the presence of his father, like was still in this movie, like the sense of like everyone knows he's a good man. That's why he needs to be taken out. Like he was almost like the what's his face in Game of Thrones, Ned. Like in the sense of just he's a good guy.
True. Yeah, he's honestly Duke Leto is probably the most sane person in this. I don't know.
Well, one thing I forgot to ask you too, the guy that comes back. Is he a big part of the book too? I liked him in the movie.
He is, yeah. Why can't I think of his name? But yeah, he is a big part of the book. And actually in the book, that's another change we could talk about. So Yue was the actual traitor, but he thinks it was Jessica. So when they first meet, he tries to kill Jessica, and they have to like talk him down from it and tell him who actually betrayed them. So that's a different change too. But yeah, he's a big part for sure.
I liked him like in that big speech that Paul was doing,
Yeah.
That Chani like was gonna do something. He's like, no, sit down. You're not gonna do anything good here. And like the second Paul mentioned, he's doing it for his father. Like, I'm not hiding anymore. You can see how proud he was. Like, I felt like he was super loyal to his father. Yeah, I like that.
Gurney.
But anyways,
Gurney Halleck, that's his
Gurney.
name.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
So yeah, that's the big timeline changes they had to make so that they didn't have a 2-year-old running around committing genocide.
So it was like 9 months time or 8 months instead of 2 years or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. The second one we kind of talked about a little bit was the like north versus south. In the book, there's not really that divide. A lot more people seem to like believe in the Lisan al-Gaib. Maybe not believe that Paul was it, but they still believed in that prophecy.
Yeah.
And Chani never really doubts him in the book like she does in the movie. But like we said earlier, I think that's more because it was Paul seeing this jihad that he unleashes and really struggling with how to not make that happen in an internal monologue. But they needed someone to be that foil to him, so they gave that to Chani, and that works. I think that worked fine.
I liked it.
The biggest difference from that, though, I think is the ending. And
I have the movie?
The ending of the movie where she goes off and seems to like kind of reject Paul or not really trust him. In the book, it's not like that. I don't know. That could be pulled from the next book. I haven't read the next book. But in the book, it really ends with that happening and then her being kind of offended, and then Jessica being like, you obviously don't know my son. Irulin will never have his love. His love's only for you. Like she'll be with him in the meetings and stuff, but us concubines are the real loves or something like that. So that was definitely different, and that's why I kind of like.
How do you feel about that difference?
I definitely like their relationship more in the book. I still think they did a good job of showing it, but her being more antagonistic to like have that pushback, it makes sense that they had to do it. It wasn't my favorite part of the movie.
Paul's brain.
Yeah, it wasn't my favorite part, but I understand it. So
yeah, okay.
The next big difference is Jessica. In the book, after he becomes the Kwisatz Haderach and drinks the water of life, she apologizes to him for how she raised him. And she realized it, like, it's not fair to like raise him up to be this figurehead, this.
I would have liked that.
Yeah, and so it felt like it kind of reconciled their relationship a little bit, where in this, it's like she's still pulling the strings, still the reason this happened. Whereas in the book, the reason it happened is because his son died, really. So
I will say this, in the movie, the mother's kind of not likable, Jessica.
And in the book, for the most part, she's not. Like, you can tell she's a Bene Gesserit. She's like indoctrinated into this way of thinking, but she does get her redemption in the book, which I didn't really feel like she had a redemption here.
I feel like that would have added to this, like it would have made me understand a little bit more. But yeah. Okay.
And I feel like it might change things moving forward. I don't know how it moves forward in the book, but I feel like it'll be different. I don't know.
Yeah.
The next change is they did not have Thufir Hawat. If you remember in part 1, he's the bigger guy who like his eyes like go white. He's a mentat, so he's like processing information.
That's right. He's like a human computer, like, since they don't use computers.
Yeah, exactly. So he's not in this at all. In the book, he has a part where he's being used by the Harkonnens and he's poisoned, and if he ever leaves, he dies. And
that's right, he wasn't in this one at all.
Yeah, they just never had any scenes with him. So that's the one. I think it's a weird change, but it's probably just runtime related, honestly. So I didn't love that because I like that character, but you know, whatever. And then 2 more. Actually, we talked about one of them. The last one I had was Paul killing the Baron versus Aaliyah, and we said, I liked that. It was definitely like a good feeling when he finally got his revenge.
Yep.
And the line he says, "You die like an animal." That was a cold line.
No, you die like an animal. I like that line too.
And then possibly the last thing is the atomics. So in the books, it's not that Paul has a bunch of like atomics that he could use to blow up all the spice. He actually learns more about the worms and how they die in water, and that's how the spice is made. So he threatens them by saying that he'll kill all the worms, basically, and have all the spice removed. It goes real in depth about how it works. So he holds that over their head instead of just being like, I have a bunch of nukes and I'm gonna blow it up if you don't do.
Why do you think they changed that? Just for simplicity?
Yeah, honestly, I think that's the main reason. It's a lot easier to explain, we're gonna blow up the stuff you want, rather than, oh, there's this natural process where the worms do this to make the spice, but I can do this to kill them. Honestly, I don't even remember exactly how it goes because it is very in-depth.
Yeah.
So I was fine with that change too. At first I was confused. I was like, oh, they're just gonna bomb it, but it's fine. I didn't have a problem with that.
Interesting. Okay. So basically, so was Paul how you pictured Paul. Like, did I forgot the actor's name.
Timothy Chalamet.
And Wonka too. And I just watched Wonka too, and
That's
Wonka and this is funny.
That is funny.
But how do you think he did as Paul?
He nailed it. I thought he was a perfect
Really?
Paul, and I thought that rise from like reluctant leader to religious figurehead and his change in that was perfect. He was kind of more reserved.
It felt real.
Yeah, he felt competent, but he also felt like reserved and not like he didn't want to take charge. He was kind of scared of unleashing this jihad, but then when he had that water of life, the change like that was perfect. So well done.
It was okay because I really liked. I thought the director and the writer it did it perfect because I don't know the character because I haven't read the book, but the character just it felt authentic like in his character. Like I understood and the change. It didn't feel forced, and the actor, would you say Timothy
Chalamet?
Yeah, he did so good at being the reserved kind of character, but you know he has the strength to do what he needs to do. As a non-book reader, I felt like he did perfect as the character in the sense of I believed him in every point of the movie where he was acting.
Yeah.
Whether it was after the poison or before.
I agree.
What about, so we already talked about Baron.
There's a few other characters that didn't make it in the movie. There's this one who was like a Kwisatz Haderach who couldn't take up the mantle because he's a genetic eunuch. His wife is actually in the movie. She's the one that seduces Feyd-Rautha. Count Fenring is his name. So, but I mean, he's not super important.
Wait, the one who seduces Elvis guy?
Yeah.
That was another question. Did he impregnate her? Is that what I got from that?
Yeah. And in the book, it's much more vague. She kind of hints that she wants to or is open to that, and then it kind of goes away and we don't see anymore. But I kind of like that change too, because the Bene Gesserit, again, are all about bloodlines and trying to create this Kwisatz Haderach. Paul is there, who's like gonna destroy all of that. He's not the one that they want to be the Kwisatz Haderach, so they're trying to make their own, basically. And Feyd-Rautha's too crazy, and so her with her Bene Gesserit genes getting his genes, and they're trying, I don't know for sure, but I think they're trying to make their own Kwisatz Haderach.
Yeah. Dang, so she actually did it with that crazy dude?
Yeah.
Oh my. Part 2 definitely is, like, there were some moments where I was like, what? Even like the moments with Baron and the girls kind of getting scared and get like he'll randomly kill her or hear screams before Dave Bautista's character goes in there. I'm like, it's kind of dark.
That's one thing in the book. The Baron, he has a proclivity for young boys. And he even makes a comment about Paul that's really creepy. And Feyd, actually. That Feyd is like Paul, and he likes it, and he's a weirdo.
Well, he does do that kiss with his nephew, which I read that was improvised by the actors.
Wow, that's funny.
That's
Austin totally in character.
Austin Butler did it. He's like, I knew he'd be game for it, and so like he did it because I think he read the book or something. And
okay. Yeah, that's definitely in character for the Baron. And they leave it kind of vague, those like kind of younger looking people in his room, but I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be young boys, and it's pretty creepy.
Okay, yeah, they left it vague. I couldn't, they were bald, so I couldn't tell anything. It was dark. One other thing I want to do. So have you read stuff in or about stuff in the future books?
A little bit, and it seems pretty weird.
It's like, what have you read? Spoilers for future books.
Spoilers for future books. So I read the next book is kind of still about Paul, but then after that, it goes into like his sons or even further on down the line. And eventually there's like a worm human god king emperor thing. I don't know. It sounds really weird.
I read like books 4 through 6 are wild. People are saying there's no way they could put those on a movie. Yeah,
and I heard the author died and then his son took it up and it really started to like fall off. I don't know when that happens, but
because book I think 2 and 3 I read. This is just me like reading people's thoughts. I heard those people really like those ones.
I've heard some people really like 4 also, but then it starts to fall off.
Yeah, well, 4 too. But from what I heard, is 4 is when it starts getting like weird and you can't put that stuff on the screen.
The next few books are actually a lot smaller too. Like
really,
this first one was like 800 pages. The second one's like 600, and then it's like 400 for the third book or something.
Interesting. Now, tell me this though. So the book, how is the book? 'Cause I've heard it could be a complicated read or a boring read. Or not for everyone kind of read.
It took us 2 tries to get into it because the first half of the book is slow and has a lot of new words.
Yeah.
Like, I read it out loud and my wife listened, and trying to figure out how to pronounce some of those was a struggle. Yeah,
I've heard people can't get into the book.
it's hard to get into, but once you do, it's definitely worth it. Yeah.
Now, do you think watching the movie and then reading it will get you a little easier to get into the book?
It'll definitely ease you into it, yeah. It still might be a little bit of a slog, because, like, the first 300 pages, nothing much happens. It's just, like, them on Caladan, him having the test, going to Arrakis, and just kind of being in the house, getting attacked, which is, you know, kind of exciting. And then up until the betrayal, it's just kind of, like, politics. I still enjoyed it. I didn't put it down, but I could see people struggling with that part. But then once the attack happens and he's on Arrakis and learning stuff, it definitely picks up.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was very curious about the differences. Yeah, that's all I got, man. I loved the movie. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I love that I have a new universe to get immersed in. It's so much fun.
Oh, for sure. Same here. And I feel like I said, I feel like Dune Part 1, like I said, I liked it, but I feel like Part 2 is what's going to get everyone into the universe.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even watch Part 1 until the day before I watched Part 2, so...
yeah, that's true.
I'm very glad, though, that I did, because I enjoyed it immensely.
You'll have to let me know if you start reading the second one eventually.
Yeah, I will.
Or maybe you'll watch it right before the second movie comes out.
I might wait and read it right before.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, well, that's all I got.
All right, definitely go see it. Highly recommend.
Yes.